The ambush the night was silent in the alien forest. The trees were tall, their leaves glowing faintly in the dark. A cold wind moved between the branches, whispering like a warning. The mother held her daughter close as they walked carefully. Every sound made her heart beat faster. She knew danger was near, but she could not stop. Her daughter, small and fragile, held her hand tightly. The child's eyes were wide, filled with fear. "Mother," she whispered, "why are we running?" The mother forced a smile, even though her chest was heavy. "Because we must find safety. Don't be afraid." "I am with you," but in her own heart, she was afraid. The forest felt alive, watching them. She could sense hidden eyes, sharp and cruel, following their steps. She quickened her pace, but it was already too late. From the shadows, the first arrow flew. It cut through the silence with a deadly hiss. The mother heard it before she saw it. She turned and pulled her daughter to the ground. The arrow hit a tree trunk, shaking with violent force. The child screamed. The mother covered her mouth gently. "Quiet," she whispered. "Stay quiet." Then came more arrows. 1, 2, 3 raining from the darkness. The mother grabbed her daughter and pushed her behind a thick rock. But one arrow slipped past, sharp and fast, heading straight for the child. Without thinking, the mother moved. She threw herself in front of her daughter. The arrow cut into her arm. Pain exploded, but she did not cry out. She only gasped and pressed her wound. Her daughter's eyes filled with tears. "Mother." The mother smiled weakly. "I am fine. Stay down. Don't move." But the attackers were not finished. Strange figures stepped out from the trees. Their skin was pale, their eyes glowing like burning coals. They were tall, armored, and cruel. They carried bows in their hands, their sharp weapons ready for more. One of them laughed, his voice deep and cold. "You cannot run. Give us the child." The mother's blood turned to ice. She pulled her daughter closer. "No, you will never touch her." The alien leader raised his bow again. His soldiers spread out, surrounding the rock. The forest seemed to close in, trapping the mother and child in a cage of shadows. Her wound burned. Her breath was heavy. She knew she could not fight them. She had no weapon, no strength left. Yet she stood tall in front of her daughter, spreading her arms wide to shield her. The child sobbed into her hands. The mother whispered in a broken voice, "Be brave, my love. If anything happens, you must run." Tears streamed down the child's face. "I will not leave you." Arrows were lifted again. Death was seconds away. The mother screamed into the dark forest, her voice raw with fear and desperation. "Help us, please. Someone help us." Her cry echoed through the silent night, but no answer came. The alien soldiers drew their bows, aiming for her heart. The mother closed her eyes for a moment. She was ready to give her life. She thought only of her daughter, the child she loved more than her own breath. If she must die, she would die protecting her. Then footsteps. Slow, heavy, and steady from the far end of the trees, a figure appeared. Not tall like the aliens, not armored like them. A man, a human, stepped into the moonlight. His clothes were torn, his face covered in dirt, but his eyes burned with fire. In his hand, he carried only a steel blade. The aliens paused, confused. A human, here in their forest. The mother's eyes widened. Hope flickered inside her broken heart. She whispered, trembling, "A human." And for the first time that night, the attackers hesitated. The ambush was not yet over. It had only just begun. Asterisk the cry for help, the forest grew still when the human stepped out from the shadows. His steps were slow, yet each one echoed with strength. The aliens lowered their bows for a moment, surprised. Their glowing eyes narrowed. A whisper moved between them like cold wind. A human? Here, the mother's heart beat faster. Her arms still bled from the arrow, but she forgot her pain. She pulled her daughter closer and stared at the strange figure. He was not tall, not armored like the alien soldiers. His blade was small compared to their weapons. He looked weak, fragile, almost broken. And yet, there was something in his eyes. A fire. A promise of danger. The human stopped a few steps away. He raised his chin and spoke, his voice steady. "Leave them alone." The leader of the aliens laughed, a cruel, echoing sound. "A human dares to order us. You have no power here. Step aside, or you will die with them." But the human did not move. He tightened his grip on the steel blade, his knuckles turning white. His breathing was heavy, but his stance was strong. The mother could not believe what she saw. Why would a human risk his life for strangers? He did not know her. He did not know her child. Yet here he stood, ready to face death. The aliens spread out, circling him. Their arrows glowed faintly under the moonlight. The forest was silent again, waiting for blood. The mother's daughter whispered, her small voice trembling, "Mother, will he save us?" The mother swallowed hard. She did not know the answer. But something deep inside her told her that this human was different. Perhaps he was their only chance. The leader of the aliens raised his hand. "Kill him." Arrows flew through the air with a hiss. The mother gasped. She was ready to close her eyes, ready to hear the sound of death. But then steel clashed against wood. The human moved faster than her eyes could follow. His blade struck one arrow away, then another. Sparks lit the night. He bent, turned, and dodged. His feet shifted like he had done this 1,000 times. The aliens growled in surprise. Their arrows were fast, but the human was faster. The mother's heart pounded. She felt hope rise inside her chest. For the first time since the ambush began, she thought, maybe we can live. But the fight was not over. More soldiers stepped out of the trees. Their bows were drawn, their blades ready. The human was now surrounded. The mother pressed her daughter's head into her chest, shielding her eyes. She whispered, "Don't look, my love. Stay quiet." Yet the child could not block out the sound of steel. The clash of weapons filled the air. The human struck with his blade, each swing filled with desperate power. He was fast, but there were too many. One alien swung a spear at his back. The mother gasped, but the human turned just in time, his sword slicing across the spear shaft. The alien fell back, hissing in pain. Still, the human took hits. An arrow cut across his shoulder. A blade scraped his side. Blood ran down his arm, but he did not fall. His eyes burned brighter with every wound. The aliens began to murmur among themselves. This was not normal. Humans were weak, fragile, easy prey. But this one? He fought like a beast, cornered, like a spirit that would not die. The leader's face twisted with anger. Enough games. Kill him now. The mother, trembling, screamed again into the night. Her voice was raw, broken. "Please, someone help us." But the forest gave no answer. There was only the human, standing alone against death. He looked back once, just once, at the mother and child. His lips moved, almost a whisper. "Hold on." And then he charged, roaring, into the circle of alien soldiers. The cry for help had been spoken. But the answer was not from the heavens. It was from a single human, whose courage was greater than fear. Asterisk. The human appears, the circle of alien soldiers tightened. Their eyes glowed red in the night, their armor shining under the pale light of the twin moons. Arrows, blades, and cruel laughter filled the air. Yet in the middle of it all stood the human, alone. His body was bleeding, but his stance was strong. The mother could hardly breathe as she watched him. He looked so different from the soldiers, smaller, weaker, with no armor to protect him, and still. He did not tremble, the alien leader sneered. A human with a toy sword. You think you can stand against us? The human's voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried across the forest. I don't think. I know. For a moment, the soldiers hesitated. His words were not shouted, but they carried a strange weight. Even the forest seemed to pause, listening. Then the first alien charged. His spear gleamed as it cut through the air. The mother gasped, holding her daughter close. But before the spear could strike, the human moved. Fast, too fast. His blade flashed once. The spear snapped in two. The alien stumbled back in shock, clutching the broken shaft. The human stepped forward, his eyes burning like fire, and struck again. The alien fell into the dirt, defeated. The circle shook. Murmurs spread among the soldiers. This was no ordinary human. The leader roared, "Do not falter. He bleeds, he will fall. Attack together." For soldiers rushed in at once. Arrows hissed, blades sliced. The human bent low, spinning his sword with desperate precision. One arrow shattered against steel. Another flew past his face, missing by an inch. His blade slashed across an enemy's leg, sending him crashing down. He twisted, barely dodging another strike. The fight was chaos steel against steel. Cries of rage against silence. But through it all, the human moved with instinct. Not perfect, not without wounds, but with something far greater: refusal. Refusal to give up, refusal to die, refusal to step aside. The mother whispered, almost to herself, "He fights for us." But why? Why would a human risk everything for strangers? Her daughter pressed closer to her side, whispering back, "Because he is brave." Blood dripped from the human's arm. His breath came heavy, his body trembling from pain. But his eyes never wavered. Each time the alien struck, he stood back up. Each time they pushed him, he pushed harder. One alien tried to flank him, raising a dagger to his back. The mother screamed a warning. The human turned, blade whipping upward, striking the dagger aside. Sparks flew. The alien hissed and stumbled back, shaken. The leader growled, anger burning in his eyes. Pathetic beast. End him. The human raised his sword, pointing it at the leader. His voice was sharp, steady. "If you want them?" He glanced at the mother and child, his jaw tight. "You must go through me." The aliens froze for a heartbeat. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind was silent. The mother felt tears in her eyes. She had seen warriors fight before, but never like this. This was not a fight for power or honor or conquest. This was something raw, something pure. The human was not just fighting. He was protecting. The leader lifted his bow, aiming directly at the child behind the rock. His voice was filled with cruel delight. "Then watch them die first." The mother gasped, pulling her daughter closer. The arrow flew swift, deadly, certain. But the human moved before thought could form. He leaped, his body twisting through the air. The arrow struck him in the shoulder, sinking deep. He stumbled, blood pouring down. And yet, he did not fall. He planted his feet in the dirt, sword raised, eyes locked on the leader. His voice was broken, but unshaken. "You will not touch them." The soldiers shifted uneasily. For the first time, fear flickered in their glowing eyes. The mother's hands trembled. Her heart raced. She whispered, "He cannot last. But maybe he can win." The human stood bleeding, surrounded, broken in body but unbroken in spirit. And the night itself seemed to lean closer, waiting to see what he would do next. First Clash. The forest was alive with tension. Every shadow seemed to lean forward, watching. The circle of alien soldiers grew tighter around the bleeding human. Their bows glowed, their blades shimmered. And in the center he stood, wounded but tall, his sword steady in his hand. The mother clutched her daughter against her chest. Her arm throbbed with pain from the arrow wound, but she did not care. Her eyes were fixed on the man before her, the human who had come from nowhere to fight for them. She did not even know his name, yet his presence felt like a shield stronger than any wall. The alien leader stepped forward. His armor caught the moonlight, his voice sharp with contempt. "You bleed, human. You will fall soon. Why resist? Give us the child, and we may let you crawl away." The human did not answer. He only shifted his stance, his sword angled forward, his feet steady in the dirt. His silence was louder than words. The leader's lip curled. He raised his hand. "Strike him down." The soldiers roared and charged. The first swung a heavy blade. The human caught it with his sword, sparks flying as metal screamed against metal. His knees bent, muscles straining, but he did not give ground. With a twist, he knocked the weapon aside and drove his elbow into the alien's chest. The soldier staggered back, breathless. Another arrow flew. The human ducked low, the arrow slicing through his hair. He spun, his blade slashing across a spear shaft, breaking it in two. He stepped forward again, relentless, refusing to give space. The clash was furious. Steel rang, cries echoed, the forest lit with fire from the alien's glowing eyes. The human's movements were not perfect. He was not faster, not stronger, but he fought with a strange rhythm, like a storm. Unpredictable and wild. The mother gasped with every strike. Her daughter buried her face in her chest, but the child still asked in a trembling whisper, "Is he winning?" The mother swallowed hard. She could not answer. The human was outnumbered, outmatched. Every hit left a wound. Every step shook with pain. And yet, he never fell. The leader watched, his expression shifting from mockery to irritation. He had seen humans before, weak, fragile, easy prey. But this one refused to die. Each time he should have fallen, he stood again, like a flame that refused to be crushed. Finally, the leader drew his own blade. It was long, curved, and deadly sharp. He stepped into the circle, his soldiers pulling back to give him space. The air grew heavier, the silence sharper. The human turned to face him. Blood dripping down his shoulder, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Their eyes locked tread against human brown, arrogance against resolve. The leader smirked. "You fight like a beast, but beasts are still animals. And animals die." He lunged, his blade flashing like lightning. The human blocked, the force of the strike rattling his bones. He slid back a step, his boots digging into the earth. Another strike came, faster, harder. Steel clashed again, sparks bursting into the night. The mother's heart raced. This was no longer a fight of soldiers, it was a duel. Human against alien commander. The leader pressed forward, blow after blow. His strength was overwhelming, his speed sharp. The human staggered, his arms trembling under the weight of each strike. Blood fell like rain from his wounds, but his eyes never broke. He gritted his teeth, raising his sword again. The leader slashed downward, aiming to cut him apart. At the last moment, the human twisted his blade, redirecting the strike into the dirt. The ground split, dust rising, but the human stood tall. The leader hissed in anger. For the first time, his voice shook. Impossible. The human's lips curved into the faintest smile, though his body shook with pain. His voice was low, almost a growl. Impossible. It's just a word. The forest trembled with the clash of steel as the first true battle began. Asterisk. The struggle the night shook with the clash of blades. Sparks flew as steel met steel, each strike echoing through the alien forest. The human's breath came heavy, his body bleeding from too many wounds, yet still he stood. His arms trembled, his knees threatened to buckle, but his eyes refused to close. The alien leader pressed forward, each attack faster than the last. His curved blade cut through the air with cruel precision. Every strike was meant to kill. Every swing filled with the promise of death. The human blocked one blow, then another, but the third cut across his side. He gasped, blood spilling down his torn shirt. His sword shook in his grip. Still, he raised it again. The mother watched with wide, tearful eyes. Her daughter clung to her, whispering, "He will fall. Mother, he will fall." The mother shook her head, though her heart pounded with the same fear. "No, look at him. He refuses." The soldiers around them muttered in disbelief. Humans were weak. Humans broke easily. Yet this broken, bleeding man kept rising. Every drop of blood seemed to sharpen his spirit instead of draining it. The leader snarled, frustrated. He swung his blade again, forcing the human back step by step. The dirt beneath their feet tore apart from the weight of their struggle. The human stumbled, almost falling. An alien soldier laughed cruelly. "See, he weakens. He is nothing." But the human's eyes snapped upward. His voice came out rough, but firm. "Nothing. Doesn't stand between you and them." He lunged forward, striking with sudden fury. His blade met the leader's, sparks bursting like fire. For a heartbeat, the human pushed the alien back, forcing him to retreat a single step. It was small, but it shook the circle of soldiers. The leader's red eyes blazed with anger. Enough. He raised his blade high, bringing it down with all his strength. The human caught it, but the force drove him to his knees. His arms screamed with pain, his shoulder burning, his sword rattling in his weakening grip. The leader pressed down, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "You are finished," he hissed. The mother's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but her body froze in terror. The child cried out. Kay said, her voice breaking the silence. "Don't give up." The human's arms shook violently. The blade was inches from his face, death waiting to carve through him. His teeth clenched, his body breaking, yet he forced the words through blood and breath. "I don't give up." With a roar, he pushed upward. Pain shot through every bone, every muscle tearing, but his spirit drove him higher. The leader stumbled in shock as the human shoved him back. The soldiers gasped. Some stepped away, uncertain now. This was not normal. This was not possible. But the human was far from safe. His chest heaved, his legs shook. His vision blurred with blood and sweat. The struggle was eating him alive. The leader steadied himself, rage burning hotter. "You will die, human. You cannot fight forever." The human staggered, but lifted his blade again. His voice was raw, yet steady. "Forever is not needed. Only long enough." The leader lunged again, their blades colliding in a storm of sparks. Each strike drove the human further into exhaustion, but still he fought back. His body was failing, yet his will held him upright. The mother whispered through tears, "Why? Why does he fight for us?" The answer was written not in words, but in his struggle. The human fought not because he had to, but because he chose to. He chose to protect, and though his body was breaking, his spirit was unbreakable. The battle raged on, the struggle pulling him closer to death with every second. But he refused to fall. Asterisk hidden strength, the duel raged on, but the human's body was failing. His breath came in broken gasps. Blood dripped from his wounds, painting the ground dark beneath his feet. His arms trembled each time he lifted the sword, and his knees threatened to collapse. The alien leader's grin widened with cruel delight. "You are finished, human. One more strike, and you will be nothing." The soldiers laughed with him, their voices echoing like cold thunder through the forest. But the mother saw something different. Though the man's body faltered, his eyes had not dimmed. They still burned bright, steady, defiant. She held her daughter close and whispered, "Look at him. He is not done." The leader raised his curved blade for the final blow. The human dropped to one knee, too weak to rise. His sword sagged. For the first time, it seemed the fight was truly lost. The alien soldiers leaned forward, eager to see him fall. The mother closed her eyes, whispering a prayer she no longer believed in. Then something changed. The human's fingers tightened around the hilt. His chest rose with a deep, steady breath. His eyes lifted, catching the pale light of the moons. And in them was not fear, not despair, but fire-bright, unshaken, unstoppable. The leader's blade fell. With a roar that shook the night, the human surged upward. His sword met the strike with sudden, explosive strength. The impact rang like thunder, forcing the leader back a step. The soldiers froze. The mother gasped. The human stood again, taller than before, his wounds bleeding, yet his presence towering like a storm. The leader snarled, enraged. He struck again, but this time the human met him head-on, his blade swinging with wild power. Sparks burst, steel shrieked, and the alien stumbled. The soldiers whispered in disbelief. Impossible. He should be dead. The human's roar filled the air. It was not the sound of strength alone, it was the sound of will. He fought not with muscle, but with something deeper, something the aliens did not understand. The mother's daughter whispered awe in her tiny voice. "He is stronger now." But why? The mother's eyes filled with tears. Because he refuses to give in. Because he has something worth protecting. The fight turned. The human struck again and again, each blow pushing the leader backward. His body should have broken, yet his spirit pulled him forward. Every wound seemed to fuel his fury. Every drop of blood proof that he would not stop. The leader hissed, his confidence shaken. He looked into the human's burning eyes and, for the first time, felt something he had never felt. Before, fear. The soldiers stepped back unconsciously, their cruel grins fading. They had seen warriors before, but this was different. This was not strength of body. This was strength of soul. The leader shouted to cover his unease. "He is only a man. End him." But none moved. Not one soldier stepped forward. They had seen what he carried inside. They had seen the hidden strength that made him dangerous. The human raised his blade. Blood dripping down his arm, his voice raw but strong. "You fear me. Not because I am powerful, but because I will not stop." That is what it means to be human. The soldiers stared, silent, their glowing eyes filled with doubt. The leader's jaw tightened, his arrogance cracking. The mother trembled, holding her daughter close. Hope, for the first time, bloomed in her chest. The human's hidden strength had revealed itself not in unbroken flesh, but in unbroken spirit, and the aliens, for all their weapons and cruelty, finally understood this battle would not end the way they expected. Asterisk. Turning point, the forest was silent, except for the sound of heavy breathing and dripping blood. The human stood, swaying on his feet, his sword still raised. His body was torn, his clothes soaked red, but his eyes still burned. The alien soldiers no longer laughed. They whispered among themselves, uneasy. This was not the weak creature they expected. This human had turned the battle into something else, something dangerous. The leader's face twisted with rage. His pride had been wounded more deeply than his flesh. He could not allow this. He could not let a single human shame him before his soldiers. "You are stubborn," the leader hissed, raising his curved blade again. "But stubbornness will not save you. Watch now as your spirit breaks." Instead of striking the human, the leader suddenly turned. His glowing eyes locked on the rock where the mother and child hid. The mother gasped. She pulled her daughter close, her heart pounding like thunder. The leader smirked cruelly. "Your strength means nothing if you cannot protect them." He raised his bow, drawing a long, dark arrow. The tip gleamed with deadly light. His aim was perfect, steady straight at the child. "No," the mother cried, her voice breaking. She tried to shield her daughter, but she knew she was too far, too weak. Too late. The arrow flew. The human's heart lurched. His body moved before thought. With a roar, he threw himself forward, sprinting across the ground. Pain shot through his chest, his wounds tearing wider. But he did not stop. In the blink of an eye, he leaped between the arrow and the child. The arrow struck. It buried deep into his shoulder, cutting through flesh and muscle. Blood burst forth. The force nearly knocked him down, but he planted his feet, refusing to fall. The mother screamed. The child cried out, "No." But the human still stood, the arrow protruding from his body. His hand shook around the sword, his knees trembled, yet his voice came steady, sharp as steel. "If you want them, you go through me." The soldiers froze. Even the leader's smirk faltered. The human pulled the arrow free with a grunt of pain, blood spilling down his chest. He dropped it to the ground and lifted his sword again. His body swayed like a dying flame, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Why does he do this? Why would he suffer for us?" Her daughter, her small voice trembling, answered softly, "Because he chooses to." The human staggered forward, step by step, facing the leader. His wounds screamed, his vision blurred, but his will dragged him onward. The leader growled, shaken but furious. "You are already dead, human. Every breath is borrowed." The human raised his chin, his eyes steady despite the blood dripping down his face. "Then I will use every breath to stand in your way." The soldiers murmured, uncertain now. Fear crept into their voices. No one had ever seen such defiance. The leader bared his teeth, enraged. He lunged with a furious strike, determined to end it. The human met him head-on, their blades crashing in a storm of sparks. The ground shook beneath them. The forest itself seemed to tremble. The mother held her child tight, hope and terror tangled inside her heart. She knew the battle had reached a turning point. The human could not last forever. His body was breaking. But his will had already begun to change the fight, and the aliens for the first time. We're beginning to understand that this single human might be more dangerous than an entire army. Word count approximately 608 *. The fearless charged. The arrow wound burned like fire in the human's shoulder. Yet he stood tall. Blood dripped down his arm. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. But his grip on the sword never loosened. He stared at the alien leader with eyes that blazed brighter than the moons above. The soldiers around them shifted uneasily. Their leader had promised an easy victory, but now they saw something that shook them. A human fragile, wounded, hopelessly outnumbered, still refused to kneel. The leader spat on the ground, his voice sharp with fury. "You are nothing." A broken body playing at courage. The human did not answer. Instead, he lowered his sword, bending slightly at the knees. His stance changed, not defensive, not cautious. It was the stance of someone ready to give everything. The mother's breath caught. She clutched her daughter tightly, whispering, "He's going to do it. He's going to fight them all." The leader snarled, raising his curved blade. "Then die with pride, fool." And the human moved. He charged. It was not graceful. It was not perfect. His steps were heavy, his body shaking from pain. Yet every stride carried the force of a storm. He roared, the sound raw and primal, echoing through the forest like thunder. The soldiers flinched. For the first time, they did not see prey charging toward them. They saw a predator. The first alien swung his spear. The human's blade flashed, cutting the shaft clean in two. The soldier stumbled back, his weapon useless. Another aimed an arrow. Before he could release it, the human slammed into him with his shoulder, sending him crashing into the dirt. The arrow flew wild, lost in the trees. The human spun, his sword slicing across the air. Sparks flew as it clashed against steel. His wound screamed, his body begged for rest, but his spirit carried him forward, unbroken. The mother watched in awe. Her heart pounded, tears streaming down her face. She whispered through trembling lips, "He fights like death cannot touch him." The child, eyes wide, whispered back, "He is not afraid." The leader growled, stepping forward. He raised his blade high, his soldiers backing away, unwilling to face the human's fury. Only he dared stand now. Their swords clashed again, the impact rattling the ground. The leader's strength was monstrous, each strike shaking the human's bones. Yet the human pushed back, his blade crashing with wild power, his roar filling the night. The fight became chaos. Blades collided, sparks burst, dust rose in clouds. The leader struck again and again, but the human charged through every blow, refusing to yield. The soldiers could only watch, their fear growing. This was not the fight of a weak creature. This was the fight of something far more terrifying, a human who had chosen not to die. The leader stumbled back for a moment, his eyes narrowing. "What are you?" He spat. The human's answer came like fire. "I am human." With one final roar, he surged forward. His blade cut through the air, his body a storm of will and fury. He struck with everything he had. Every ounce of pain and courage poured into that charge. The leader blocked, but the force drove him back, his boots tearing into the dirt. For the first time, his balance broke. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. The mother gasped, holding her daughter close. The fearless charge had changed the battle. The human was no longer just defending. He was attacking, pushing back the tide. His body was breaking, yes. His blood painted the earth. But his spirit was alive, burning brighter than ever. And the aliens, watching in silence, understood one truth. This human would not stop, not until the fight was decided. Asterisk. The retreats, the fearless charge, left the forest trembling. Dust hung in the air, blood marked the ground, and the echo of the human's roar seemed to linger like thunder. The alien leader stumbled back, his chest heaving. His curved blade shook in his hand. Never before had he been forced backward by prey. Never before had he felt his own soldiers hesitate behind him. The human stood only a few steps away, swaying, his body broken and bleeding. His clothes were torn, his skin cut open in many places. An arrow wound still burned in his shoulder, and every breath rattled in his chest. Yet his sword was raised, steady, unshaken. His eyes glowed with a kind of fire the aliens could not understand. The soldiers murmured uneasily. Their leader had promised an easy hunt, but this had turned into a nightmare. One soldier whispered, "He should be dead." Another answered in a low voice, "Then why does he still stand?" The leader snarled, his pride clashing with the creeping fear inside him. "Do not falter. He is only one man." But his words fell flat. Even he no longer believed them. The human took a step forward. Just one. But that single step made the soldiers shrink back. He looked like death itself, bleeding, broken, but walking without fear. The mother held her daughter close, her eyes wide with awe. She whispered, "They are afraid. They fear him." The child's small voice trembled. "But why, mother?" The mother's voice cracked with emotion. "Because he will not stop. And nothing is more dangerous than someone who refuses to fall." The leader growled, desperate to hold control. He swung his blade in fury, charging again. The human met him head-on. Their swords clashed, sparks flashing in the night. The fight was fierce, but something had changed. The leader struck with power, but his confidence had cracked. His movements were less precise, his eyes darting with unease. The human, though slower, though weaker in body, fought with unwavering resolve. Each blow he gave was filled with purpose, each roar with defiance. The soldiers shifted back, forming a wider circle, no longer eager to join. Fear grew like a shadow between them. Then it happened. The human's blade struck with sudden force, knocking the leader's weapon aside. The alien staggered, stumbling into the dirt. Gasps filled the air. Their commander brought to his knees by a dying human. The leader scrambled back to his feet, rage twisting his face. But the fear in his soldiers' eyes had already taken root. "Retreat?" One soldier shouted. His voice cracked with terror. Another echoed, "He is not human. He is something else." The leader roared at them, "Cowards! Stand and fight." But the soldiers did not move. Their glowing eyes flickered with doubt, their steps faltering. Some turned and slipped back into the forest shadows. Unwilling to face the human again, the leader's fury grew, but his voice carried no weight. Fear had broken his army. The human stood in the center, his sword lowered but still firm in his hand. He said nothing. He only stared, his silent defiance heavier than any words. The mother's heart raced. She realized she was seeing a miracle, not strength of body, but strength of spirit. A man so broken that he should have fallen long ago, yet so strong in will that he had forced an army to retreat. The leader's eyes burned with hate. He backed away slowly, spitting his final words like poison. "This is not over, human. You have made an enemy tonight." The human said nothing. His silence was enough, and so, one by one, the aliens vanished into the forest, their shadows swallowed by the night. The battle was over. The retreat had begun. The aftermath of forest grew quiet again. The whispers of battle faded into the wind. Only the sound of heavy breathing and dripping blood remained. The human stood alone in the clearing. His sword was still in his hand, though it trembled. His body swayed like a dying flame. His wounds were many cuts, bruises, and the deep arrow hole in his shoulder. His legs shook as though every step might be his last, but he did not fall. Not yet. The mother slowly rose from behind the rock, clutching her daughter's hand. Her arm throbbed from her wound, but her eyes were fixed on the man who had saved them. He looked more like a ghost than a warrior. Yet to her, he was something far greater. She whispered, her voice breaking. He drove them away. Her daughter's small eyes were wide with wonder. "Mother, is he a hero?" The mother held her close. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, my love. He is more than that." The human turned slowly, his eyes meeting theirs. For a moment, the fire in his gaze softened. His lips curved into the faintest smile, though his face was pale with pain. He took a step toward them. His foot dragged through the dirt. He took another, his body trembling. When he finally reached them, he lowered his sword, planting it in the ground for balance. The mother stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Why?" she asked, her voice soft, trembling. "Why would you risk everything for us? You don't even know our names." The human's breath rattled in his chest. He leaned on his sword, his knees nearly buckling, but his eyes stayed on hers. His answer was quiet, but strong enough to pierce the silence. Because no one should face death alone. The mother's hand covered her mouth. Her tears fell freely now. She had never heard words so simple, yet so heavy with meaning. Her daughter stepped forward, timidly. She touched the human's torn shirt with small fingers. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of innocence. The human looked down at her, his eyes soft. For a heartbeat, his pain seemed to fade. He gave a small nod, as if the child's gratitude was enough to carry him through every wound, but his strength was leaving. His body shuddered. His vision blurred. His sword slipped slightly from his grasp. The mother gasped, moving quickly to catch him as he sank to his knees. He was heavy, yet he felt fragile in her arms. "Stay with us," she begged, her voice trembling. "Please, don't leave us now." The human's eyes half closed. His breaths were shallow, but a faint smile lingered on his lips. He whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "It's not over yet." Then his head fell forward, his body finally giving way. He collapsed into her arms, unconscious. The mother held him tightly, her tears falling onto his bloodied skin. Her daughter cried beside her, clutching the human's hand. The forest around them seemed to exhale, the danger gone for now. But she knew the aliens would not forget this night. Their leader's words still echoed, "This is not over." The mother looked down at the human's face. A stranger, a man from another world who had bled for them without hesitation. A man who had stood against death itself. She whispered through her tears, "You are not just human. You are hope." The wind stirred the trees, carrying her words into the night. And so the story did not end with victory or celebration. It ended with a wounded human lying in the arms of those he saved. His fate uncertain, but one truth remained. Written in blood and courage, the galaxy had witnessed what a single human could do. And the legend had only just begun. Asterisk.